Door. Enough noise. Welcome back to the RMP. I'm Zachary, your host of this adorable little podcast. If you want to hit me up, you can always email me at zachary@therebelminded.com or check out my newsletter on Substack at therebelminded.substack.com. And we are here to question the mess, make some rebel actions, and start living life on our own terms. And I want to know, how do we live life as our true selves? The self that will look into us at the end and ask us, did we do it all? Now, I know everybody has been having a fantastic winter. I've had a pretty fantastic winter, mostly, until I realized that my work has slowed down a lot. That's challenging. I tell you what, when I was 25, if I would have been self-employed then, I wouldn't have been self-employed very long, because I used to easily freak out when money was an issue. Obviously, then I didn't necessarily have any problems with that. I was always employed by somebody. Even when the 2008 recession happened, I really didn't have any problems with too much work. Never had too big of an issue there. Also, didn't have much responsibility. Thank God. If there's a Jesus and if there's a God, or, I'm getting into this new thing of like, is God something besides the conscious deity, the all-knowing, making things happen dude up in the sky? Is that bearded guy up there? And the other question is, what does God look like compared to Jesus? Because I've got them confused. I have no idea. I mean, I know which guy Jesus looks like, but I think that's the portrayal that we always see, right? Is Jesus like, what does God look like? Did I miss something? Did I miss a portrait? Did somebody make God out in the world, like a picture of him? He wasn't necessarily a being, so I guess there wouldn't be a picture of him, only a self-actualized portrayal of God. Anyway, it doesn't matter, because it only matters to you, I guess, whatever your version of God looks like. Anyway, the winter's been more rough than I expected, but I am proud of myself for my own type of resiliency of number one, not freaking out, but also taking charge on things that matter and making sure I can get things done. It's still going to be pretty awesome the next couple of months anyway. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's killing it. I've talked to a few good people the last couple months that have made me feel really good about my own journey, and other people that have no idea that I am even trying to have a self-proclaimed journey. To have a podcast and to be a writer is, the thing is about going your own way is the people from your past only know you as they know you. They only know the personality and the character of what you've always been. So when you decide to change, they may not necessarily not support you, but they don't understand you, or they begin to not understand you, and they start to create distance between you, or not them necessarily, but a distance naturally occurs, I think, because of you turning into something that they're not used to. And that kind of sucks. But I wanted to start doing small episodes about things that I'm writing, because I'm actually trying to get my writing to be more consistent, and I'm trying to get my writing to dive deeper into what we're trying to discover. Now, I have a prompt that I'm going to do in every new short episode to get us started off, on an idea, on a thought, on some sort of contemplation. And just for the record, this is a prompt from 11/29 of 21. I just picked something randomly that I had a couple years ago, or almost a couple years ago. And we'll start right here. I've definitely learned something in the last few days. Is it a catalyst after separating from her? I do know that the 2-month experience showed me some truth about myself. I have a lot of growing up to do. rather growing in to my greatest self. And that self is a person that now needs a fuckload of emphasis on my masculine. I feel now that in my attempt to take control of my life, I was still coming from an emotional and far too accepting state. In my attempt to love myself and give myself grace and time, I've overcompensated, and I haven't been able to fully step into and embrace my masculine state. I see now that the seasons have changed. It's time for a stronger and more action-driven version of myself. I need to engulf and soak my mind and body in my future self, rather than waiting to feel into it. It's not my mindset that will get me to act. It's my actions that will get me my mindset. So a couple questions that I put up here after I read this was, what did this mean for me then? And when I coming back to this particular interaction with this particular person, what was I feeling? What did it mean to step more into my masculine then? And what I can tell you is that from the beginnings of where I started to not know who I was, which is basically the teenage era for most of us, that end of adolescence when we're stepping into adulthood, I gave control to the universe, and not consciously, not intentionally. I never gave that to the universe itself. I just expected that the world would find me. And even though I felt like I was meant to do something, I thought that the world would just discover me somehow without any action, without any character or personality to portray any sort of potential. And I was raised by my mom with very little interaction with my own dad and separation from my stepdad, and there just wasn't a whole lot of male figures around. And so in that situation, it's something I even wrote about today, was that I had a mom that was always there to take care of me, which was great, and she was always there to make sure I was safe, which was also great. But she was there to protect and serve me and save me from any particular situation. And that is not a good thing, because the compounding effect of not having a father around meant that I didn't have a father to pull me away from the mother, and force me to take on challenge, to force me to take on my doubt, to force me to face my fear, to force me to take on challenge, to force me to mature myself into decisiveness. And I think that is majorly important in boyhood, and a lot of us right now are missing out on it. There's statistics right now about how many sons are without fathers, how many are in single parent households, how many of those are single parent female households. And it's tough. It's tough. I've read a lot of authors that have talked about boyhood, about the loss of masculinity in boyhood, and that biggest part of that is that missing father figure. And so what this did for me was threw me into life with a very feminine edge. Not necessarily a bad thing, but very imbalanced. And so with a more feminine edge, I may have been more understanding, more patient, more emotional. I have always connected more with females. Like, I've very easily connected with females more, and I always had a wall up against the men in my life. And that wall was created out of timidity. It was created out of submissiveness. It was created out of fear, intimidation by other men. So I had a very hard time talking to men, and I had a very hard time standing my ground against men. And it kind of created this little comedic part of my character where I would joke about myself and emasculate myself and self-deprecate in a way that made me come off unthreatening, that loosened the mood, loosened the environment, made people laugh, and made me come off as unthreatening so that I could survive situations. And it's not something that I'm necessarily proud of, but at the same time, it created a character that at times can be witty, at times can take control of a situation, and it worked out really well. But it also made me, it kept me very indecisive. It kept me from being the typical harder masculine edge of being a person or being a male that made me unattractive to the opposite sex, that made me seem not powerful, that made me seem very weak in mind and body. And it made me afraid to be patient. It made me very quick in my speech. And it kept me from being the more true version of myself. And so when it came down to this particular person that I was dating, I realized that I was missing all of these things with somebody that was older than me by, I think, like 9 years, and somebody that saw the graciousness in my character and saw the compassion in my character and the understanding and the type of love that I would have, but how easily she became unattracted to me because I was missing so much of my authentic masculine self. And the reason I say authentic is because I very much feel the energy and power that I'm too afraid to release out into the universe. And so I think that what that made me feel then was that I had a lot of insecurity to learn to take control of. I had a lot of confidence issues that were not coming to the surface that I needed to remedy. And now that it's 2023, I'm actually taking care of a lot of that stuff. I'm questioning and being skeptical and connecting more with men than I ever have, but it's a very, very difficult thing. And I think the overall point I would want to get across to this is that we're going to find ourselves in situations where those insecurities pop up, where those flaws pop up, and we step back into our very old conditioning. Even if we're aware, even if we're mindful of who we want to become and the things that we need to fix in maybe our masculine feminine balance, if we need things that we need to allow into our character to make us more ourselves, it's very easy to drop back into our old selves. So the question is, how often, and are you still believing in your own lies about yourself? Are you so afraid of what you can become, and have you made so many excuses about why you can't be that new character? Maybe because it means that you come off rude. Maybe it means that you come off abrasive and not friendly. And if it makes you think of excuses that make you afraid of how you're going to come off to other people, then that's something that you really need to not just be curious about, but purposely step into. So, for example, one of the biggest issues I have is with talking to women at the age of 35. It's absolutely ridiculous. But the same things pop up in my head every single time I come across somebody that I think is attractive. I have these thoughts of why I'm not good enough, whether it be because I'm too short. I know we've talked about this a million times, I'm sorry, but whether I'm too short or whether, my job isn't good enough, or whether my job just seems too low class, whether I, if I don't make enough money, or where I live isn't big enough or fancy enough. I create all of these things in my mind every time I feel like I'm attracted to someone. And these are the things that I have to attack. These are the things that I have to remedy for myself, because the lies aren't actually true. And there's a lot of research out there. There's a lot of statistics out there. There's a lot of people that can prove you wrong in the lies that you create about yourself. And the lies that you create about yourself are Stephen Pressfield's resistance. They're the imposter syndrome. They are the gremlins that hold you back from being your true self. Because what happens is, and the way that you can recognize this is that you'll step back from situations and you'll have those split second epiphanies of, oh my God, what did I just miss? How did you almost feel shame and guilt for not trying, right? Until you step back into your excuses and decide why it is that you didn't make that jump. So I think I want to stick with this here. I don't want to over glorify or over repeat this whole idea, but I think my whole point of this was, how much are you going to believe your lies? I want to keep going back to that. How much of you are you missing, and how much are you repeatedly, daily avoiding about becoming yourself? What are the things that are stepping in your way that have been for maybe 5, 10, 20, 30 years, depending on how old you are and how much you haven't dealt with your stuff? How much of this stuff is keeping you from being everything that you want to be? Because when it comes down to it, it's very objective in our reality about what we can do to change who we are and what we want to be. And even thoughts that I had like today was like, the emotions don't matter and nobody cares. And the excitement of life is about all of the fuck ups, is about all of the mistakes. It's about what's funny. It's about what's embarrassing. It's about what can make your life lively, regardless of thinking that it has to be paid vacations or life-risking opportunities. You know, that doesn't make an exciting life. An exciting life is how you approach the world and how you approach the people in the world every fucking day. So have you chosen to believe in your own lies? Have you chosen to believe in the pseudo version of yourself? Have you chosen to avoid everything that you want to become, all because of your fears and insecurities and flaws? So, I love you all. Keep fighting. This is your host, Zach. Out. Hey guys, I hope that all things we've brought here, including the people, have helped you change the way that you see the world. And if it has, then it would help us so much if you leave a rating and a comment on iTunes, or give any feedback wherever you listen to the RMP. Thank you for listening in, and don't forget to follow and subscribe. Question everything, my friends.